It was from Mama call about SVTV Africa. So them say ghetto life story for some time ni call to ghettos ni for kasani ade na decide say yeah dey sa teachings we be basa na be mo so mo nya questions bi mbisa na ye koye we get to recorded no yeah the teachings ba nya nwie ye ye every week bi na be drop it back se na be ya also no o hwa men hwe ne kwa we udi sua bibi wa wo fie wa opese osusu why dreams up so ko wura sa de we mu no so no obehu se na esitie se na esitie nipa e drug addict so person wura into drugs the way be yo addiction asem na kan it is o hwe sa de we na say 24 se na be ya untimi fa ho ko hwe sa de we mu a so mu wo mu dada no so no e the teachings we ba se na be boa wa obetimi ahwe kwan so a obetimi live obe jai sa anyama we nti ani nti na yɛ sa teachings we ba wo SVTV Africa so nti de bia no yɛ was Steven Sanke or the side we be every week bia yɛ one video be ba wo questions are drop it e wan say o say na be the following week or ba or the answers ni ade ne be ba yɛ can about addiction what you say nti we ni yɛ de bra SVTV Africa say na munim no rehab centers no so yɛ try any House of St Francis yɛ de nkofo 2 ko ho kakra sana mesika na mon support yen foundation mon support yen mon donating kakra ye wonkofo bebre wo ha omo queue ma se yen omko babisa ho ne boarding kakra 7,000 plus ni pa baako enti wo hwe wo di we ba wo di kakra ba na we di kakra ba 10 cedi 5 cedi 50 cedis 100,000 ne e kosa ne agada ni nyina ne e de obi kosa ne e change lives enti ne e catch us SVTV Africa Foundation let's help together no ano no simple nti mo ma mboabo ye ho ye da ma se de bia no mo gi ye di am support brand no SVTV Africa meda aseda shipping limited ase mo UK nyina fila me de bram one time we no size so what I say from aseda shipping limited o person the boxes ni onyama bagana aseda shipping limited from numbers ni o screen so catch am so advert we will DJ nyame o SVTV Africa say yes. Oh, from some more discount. Yeah, I thought we can say, mother, Matim advert ni ade me feeling mama me discount. How the from na catch am say yes, oti advert nti o boxes bi wo ho nyama bi wo person the bag and enche be borders. Meaning say boxes be back town. So what you say? Nti o sisi ano do nyama ne gu container ma before be borders no next man na me adoma pa na on sa kan wa de so what you say we ba na obi bia at the house set Frasida Shipping Limited e wo numbers no so e fa me DJ nyame ene ye ni Sanke Steven Sanke ba be din komo ba be kire yen about concerning about addiction last week or the big bre ene or the biswa bre nti muma enti Steven Sanke or your addiction professional and counselor Steven Sanke muma enti in the other brain.
Welcome to this episode's edition of Drug Addiction Education. Last time I share, we talked about so many things. We talked about what a drug was. We even talked about what drug addiction in air. And my sounds to us to say, how do you become addicted? Like I said, only as I was starting and they know why you're addicted. You see, you move from stage to stage before you get to the point of what? Addiction. And I sank can send P as with regards to what adwinimu yari bini in your manoma be. The moment there, we want to solely focus on what causes of addiction. Causes of addiction, and your ma, will be addicted to a substance. Now let's start. The first thing I would like us to talk about is heredity. We have heard people talk about heredity. Nichini kameka saying, bibia se oba o pass it on to obano. I can for Rebecca said, okoto and wanoma into your koto. Then koto. There's no way you are going to give birth to what? A bed. Exactly. What we mean by that is that you are likely to have a problem with addiction when in your family there's someone who already has the history of addiction inside. In your family, let's say your father is a drug addict, you are 10 times likely, or you are likely just to also become an addict. Into Buo Hua say, Ebusiano, yen can say, Akoisa for a woman. Omo no mensa na ne maame bia na ne papa bia na bibi eno mensa wo sa akwa na wo sa ebusuan mu no you are likely to become addicted because so wonya do nsa koso nsa ne mu a e wo mogemu da into so mo anakpa amount problems no. If you want to make this more serious, let us even take the example of Bible munsem offer example of Abraham or Bible no mu. Abraham on Sarah, they struggled with what? Childbirth. What happened? Obre answer na nyame finally Emma Sarah eba. Or when about Isaac and so Isaac and Rebecca, it was the same problem. Rebecca also struggled to have a child. Or cut down crying to Jacob. Jacob ne Rachel, the same problem. So if you look at these things, you are likely to call them what? Generational curses. Generational curses, any spiritual context, no. But in English or in the science context, we call it heredity. And these are some of the reasons why a person is likely what? To be addicted. So what you know say? This is the first cause. Now there's another cause we call the biological factors. In the adolescent age, biological cause age. Now the adolescent is likely to become easily addicted because the adolescent brain, no, teenage who akwebia we di me fan say 18 ni mo kono na adwini mu no enyi nti say adult brain, no. The adolescent brain, no, enye capable of making certain decisions and enye capable of planning. Into go say o plan wa bra utumi dwin say okay ma me first ka we into her ma me fa we into na me ni say adolescent brain, no, is not capable of doing certain things like that. Into go say adolescent, no, is very likely to become what? Addicted because na adwini mu enye immature well enough. There's a difference between that brain and the adult brain. Apart from enonso, no, we always try to educate the adolescent because one way able to me aboa adolescent, no, from getting into drugs, no, is to educate these adolescents. So as much as possible, BBT says here is meant to expose a lot of information to adolescents, no, or every adolescent. Sometimes you go into the schools, secondary schools and all that to try to talk to students. No, why? Because we feel that the more we expose the dangers of drugs near the to them, no, they are likely to stay away from it. But that in itself is not a guarantee. Why? Because I've already said, adolescent brain nankasa, you're full of experimental nature, be a pay experience, a pay be ensure that you're fully mature to the point a bit to make certain life decisions correct and as a certain planning correct. Into Oka Sans and now chain and your guarantee is Oka chain we are or befa. But ours is what to continue to educate these adolescent boys and girls to understand the dangers that they face if they go into what? Addiction. Now another thing is sex, whether male or female. Now last week or the last time na Asian we talked about the fact say obabi and now obema be to me started so using drugs as a result of what? Emotional disorder be. Now ofa bema no now find ma no are less likely to get addicted to certain psychoactive drugs like antidepressants and anti-anxiety drugs, no. Anyway, and do now or depression and I say maybe we mood at that title. Doctor to me prescribe a dobi ma ofa ma mood, no, I get it better. Now women are likely to be addicted to substance, no, more than men because of the emotional nature of women. And then we have other drugs like alcohol, for example. In men are more capable of becoming addicted to alcohol than women because of the nature of drug and also. Into what I'm saying is that man in Burma react differently to certain substances. Over cocaine, we are in Burma are likely to use cocaine and we more. Rarely now on some occasions we say ma you see. No remember there we are likely to use alcohol, we cocaine, but a man will sometimes easily get addicted to what? Antidepressant or anti-anxiety medications. Now let us move away from biological factors and let us look at environmental or social. Now make I say in our last video I talked about certain things being internal and some being external. Like I say, we'll talk about the internal one that has to do with emotional, but let's just talk about the external. Now people can grow up in very bad homes. When I say bad homes, I mean that homes be audua if be auduma ntokwa nkwa na akwa etimu na ndi a ntokwa ochina ntokwa maybe na papa no kra enso enum nsa ebu ne yire and vice versa oba no mum na enum nsa bebu ne kunu. All these things play a very serious role on the life of this young child. Inti sa akwa no onyi no or stressor, environmental stressor be a no, maybe too premature exposure to violence be ne, be abuse be a. All these things no prepare Kwano to easily become addicted because on now starting me fans were afraid because too much pressure Kwano and now peer pressure being a baby now on also or fire already now if problems no dorsal. And so status of fast syndrome, it is meant to what? To help that child forget about the pain. So you understand what I mean? So home is one of these environmental factors that can cause us to be addicted to what? A substance. Now, another thing was availability of drugs in our homes. Take it as a cultural, in a cultural context. Oba Ghana, for example, if you be obe room kakra na maybe papa no nom nsa me kai say yesu anu sa no na ye my bottles nketo abi utwe mane afro say kwaku bra jiwe na akọtọ apetishi wa hama me if you be wa be kwa ubi e fridge ni mu na nsa nko a nsa we drink we aye fie ni mu ma akwa na owo sa efie we mu no wa benyi anase onyi eti ase say it is okay. After all, it's always in the house, everyone is doing it, everyone can drink it, so why not? Now that availability of the drug or the alcohol in the home makes it more easier or a breeding ground for that child to be addicted to that alcohol. You understand what I'm saying? Or there could even be prescription drugs. A home where there are lots of prescription drugs around. Maybe Fedro no Ebuano. Next minute, the mama say, "Oh, kwafawe na wafa." Before you realize, that child grows up to think that it is okay for me to always be taking these drugs when I'm in this mood or this state. You understand what I'm talking about? Good. Now, there's also peer pressure. Peer pressure is the most common thing that we all know as a cause of drug addiction. Now, peer pressure is just the fact that what we all want to fit in a certain social group. As a human being, we are not islands. You say no man is an island, me boy. So it is difficult for one to say that I do not want to relate to any human being. You are very, 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 very likely to engage yourself with a certain social group. Now, peer pressure is one of the leading causes of drug addiction. This peer pressure does not only have to do, like I mentioned in my first video, that it doesn't really have to do with just the group of friends. Sometimes we learn things from our peers, even on TV. You see people doing it on TV and then we pick it up as a way of influence. Now, let me also quickly add this. When we say peer pressure, do not limit it. These are old issues that have always been there. Let me take it back to biblical times. The story of Akwawe, John the Baptist and King Herod. What happened? John the Baptist was supposed to be in prison. King Herod, and then the banner, the banner and what happened? The banner say, and then couldn't say, ask me for anything and I'll give you. Or can the banner say, I want the head of John the Baptist. Or you could realize that immediately John the Baptist didn't want to, King Herod didn't want to do it. But because he had said it in the presence of other kings, what happened? He was compelled to give his daughter the head of John the Baptist. And when you peer pressure now. So when we talk about peer pressure, do not underestimate the effect of peer pressure on every human being. Sometimes we will be in a nante, we need a bobra together all the time. One day, was starting a mal attitude. How does that even feel? And so you can imagine that this peer pressure issue on adolescents is a big deal. Sometimes we go to school, we do not fit in the groups that we find ourselves, and so we are compelled to do what these people in the group do, and so by that we end up becoming addicted to a drug. Now let us also look at social stresses like abuse, violence. People have been abused whilst growing up. Whilst growing up, they have been sexually abused. Some people have been exposed to violence very early, and some people have been traumatized by their childhood. Ghana, and even not only in Ghana, a lot of other places in the world, you realize sometimes you find a father sexually abusing a child. Some of these kids, when they are growing up, grow up with so much trauma. Into when you a drobia maybe when you alcohol beer or the na dream so when you say drone or beneden or befasa because I dream I want to know a dorsum on tiase. But these social stresses affect whoever is involved. And young kwadankwa and penny for cry, maybe divorce, maybe other forms of abuse, even marriage, there are a lot of abuses that go on. These are factors that could lead to people getting themselves into drug addiction. Now, having said all of this, let me finally add something that is very important to my heart. And this is behavior and emotions. Behavior and emotions. This is the part I really like to talk about. Now, the ubisa obi, why do you use marijuana? You realize that normally yenya asembia enkanchiro papebia. You be and you bit me can say, oh, I am my board. Minishi yentia and me winning lotto. Into me winning lotto into me person me Jimmy, who just me names and me Jimmy, Ajit Manom and Sano. And I'll be say, Meraho, I've lost a family member. Now all of these things that I'm talking about are emotions. It means what? The underlying factor behind why we all go to the use or go back to the use of a substance is because of our inability to deal with our emotions. Simple, but it's not that simple. Emotions is what causes all of us to want to take drugs. Sometimes we take the drug to run away from an emotion. At other times, we take the drug to run to a particular emotion. Take, for example, alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant. We have always thought that alcohol is a stimulant. No, alcohol is a depressant. Me copy area being a new environment. Me feel one community, alcohol, another community. Me do hono, and now maybe area me call town. Me call town. Me say no. I don't really fit so well in this area. My head bored, my head lonely. For me to what depress or suppress that emotion, my na baby and I'm anyway, and then my boredom has been what suppressed, and it has led to me to feel very good. Me feeling good. And tomorrow when I'm bored again, what do? I go back to the beer. You understand what I'm saying? Into pubs, beer or use drugs. Beer, why do you use the drugs? Simple question. Why do you smoke? Why do you drink? Yeah, Sebe. I say, oh, I feel good. Did they make I feel good? Oh, sometimes I won't take forget. Oh, sometimes it be say I don't get anything to do. All of these are what we call the emotional build-ups. Because of our inability to deal with these emotions, our maladaptive behaviors, we cannot adjust ourselves to certain emotional changes. We resort to heavy use of drugs. You understand what I'm saying? Into once anyone, there are people who do not drink or smoke. What do? When they are bored, they find a way to engage themselves in other activities. When they are sad, which is a normal human emotion, they find themselves in certain activities to help them forgo that emotion or gradually deal with that emotion. We don't know how to do that. Once there's an emotion or a negative emotion we do not like, we have to immediately resort to the use of drugs. So this is basically what we are talking about today, the causes of drug addiction. I have listed biological factors, environmental factors, and social stresses, and finally emotions. Emotions, like I've said, is the underlying reason why we all use drugs. Obi, you see drugs, alcohol, because of to mean switching between emotions, and to deal with the emotions, we resort to using of drugs. So thank you very much for being part of today's episodes. See you another time. Thank you.
Hi, yabada Steven Sanke say all these teachings we bring. At least you should be a film. Send a beya, yes, you be it's between two and ammonia, dear. Send a beya could run to addiction, money, dear, or be person near Rima, says the beya or body in the beya. Yeah, the more be bass and I'm a kind of platform we say SVTV Africa. Send a motion. Monkosana support who obi and I will be into Saturday we must send a video we man send a beya on so me sua sanyama we be obi oye addict obet me sua be film monkoso na mo support SVTV Africa Foundation mun donate na mo support yan kakra bibi kakra be count sanyama ehira wo bibia na wato kakra my mobile money na wa send am my Western Union na wa send am my de obe send bi Ghana o frɛ ya bibi kakra bi kra na e be gene so ye dey support because you more charity works e dey ba and then you can say let's help together. My number obet me afraid 0244 790902. Obet me WhatsApp me, so just WhatsApp me. WhatsApp me so DJ Nyame yeah SVT share program say now here so supporting and say yeah MTN mobile money number no 0240677898. A good screen so any MTN mobile money number. But 0244 need the Vodafone. And no frame and then way. So obet send Vodafone so obet me send abre. In America no ebeda say that shipping limited as omo UK nyina omo keli baby everywhere as that shipping limited from CC WhatsApp omo there for updates be omo pak WhatsApp omo open all the boxes bag Ghana door to door delivery number 1 and tell my contact there or fire dey be make say or tena Ghana sa container number till the time or return call back that shipping line no shipping for no forget omo as that shipping limited omo this size from mom disappoint mom update the time content and be do ni nyina o meyi bibia no o mechiro bibia so that shipping limited from CC ya beda Steven Sanke as say de bia no nyam no the teachers we brɛ wo SVTV Africa so monkoso na mon support here makramo